What if I told you that Twitch's final voicemail didn't just say goodbye? It exposed Hollywood's darkest secrets, forced everyone at his funeral to sign an NDA, and even mentioned Ellen by name. Stay tuned because once you hear this, you'll never look at his death the same way again. Hey there, did you miss us? Because we've definitely missed you. It seems the internet's been unusually quiet without someone digging into the stories everyone's secretly curious about. Well, fasten your seatbelts, because we're back. And this time, no hidden truth is off limits today. We're unraveling the mystery surrounding the final voicemail left by Steven tWitch's. What warning did he leave for his wife? Why were guests at his funeral required to sign NDAs? And perhaps the most startling question, why was Elon's name allegedly mentioned in the note Twitch left behind for the police? The deeper you look into the circumstances of Twitch's passing, the more the picture shifts. Suddenly, Ellen's image of innocence doesn't seem so clear-cut.
Oh, wear it. And,
All right.
Yo, Ellen, we go so far back. You don't tell these people how far back we go.
I know, but I wear t-shirts. I don't know what that means. Anyway, all right, let's.
I mean,
You hold that.
Okay, all right,
I
got
got
this.
to take two if the joke didn't work.
No, it's
I
okay.
don't want no problems.
No, it's okay.
No, hold on.
Hey, so, cheers. Hey! Ellen, I heard you were sick, and look what I got you.
You
Your
got me.
boy. So whenever you get sick, you can have this. Okay, well, maybe I have one at your house.
Where's the? Now, what time would your party start? Let's say.
Like 9:30.
Really, that early?
Yeah.
I could make that.
Yeah.
But I could think of you of starting a party at like midnight. Like, what time will it go till?
That's a different type of party, though.
Uh-huh.
It'll go from like 9:30 to like maybe 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And then, we have the top 2 floors of the hotel.
And then it will carry on there.
Yeah. Then the after party.
No, I know about them.
Steven tWitch's wasn't just a dancer and entertainer, he was the heartbeat of the Ellen DeGeneres show. Rising from the world of competitive dance and reality television, Twitch built a career rooted in charisma, discipline, and an infectious energy that made audiences gravitate toward him. In 2014, he joined Ellen's daytime empire as the resident DJ, quickly becoming a fan favorite. Over the years, his role grew, and by the time the show was winding down, he had risen to the position of executive producer. For nearly 8 years, Twitch stood by Elon's side, not only as a colleague but as someone the audience perceived as her trusted right-hand man. To those who knew him personally, he was far more than a television personality. He was described as a devoted husband, a loving father, and the type of person whose mere presence could lift spirits and light up a room. His energy was magnetic, his smile disarming, and his kindness something people never seemed to forget. That's why the news, on December 13, 2022, hit with such devastating force. When it was reported that Twitch had taken his own life, the shock reverberated far beyond Hollywood. Fans who had come to know him through the show struggled to reconcile the cheerful, vibrant man they saw on screen with the tragedy of his death. Colleagues and close friends openly expressed disbelief, many insisting that Twitch had shown no signs of the kind of despair that would lead to such a decision. The collective grief was palpable, and for days, social media filled with tributes, memories, and messages of sorrow from those who admired and loved him. Yet, as the initial wave of grief settled, an unsettling silence began to grow around the circumstances of his death. Official reports labeled it a suicide, but for many, unanswered questions lingered. The narrative felt incomplete. Why would someone who seemed so full of life, who had just celebrated milestones with his family, and who appeared to be thriving professionally, suddenly choose such a tragic end? The more people asked those questions, the more speculation filled the gaps left behind. Whispers soon began circulating online, suggesting that Twitch may have been entangled in something far darker than anyone realized. His long-standing connection to Ellen, a figure who herself had faced damaging accusations about toxicity and abuse on her show, became a focal point of conspiracy theories. Critics questioned whether Elon's own reputation troubles and alleged connections to more powerful figures in entertainment might have spilled over into Twitch's life. It wasn't long before some began drawing connections between his death and the broader scandals enveloping the industry. Among the most persistent claims was the idea that Elon's sudden and quiet departure from the United States wasn't just about closing one chapter of her career. Instead, rumors suggested it was a strategic retreat, motivated by fear that she too might soon be caught in the same kind of federal investigations that had already ensnared figures like Sean Diddy, Combs. The timing, for skeptics, was too convenient to dismiss. While Ellen has not publicly connected her relocation to any of these events, the alignment of her move with ongoing investigations into Hollywood's darker corners has only fueled suspicion. The tragedy of Twitch's passing remains deeply personal to his family, friends, and fans, but for many observers, it has also become symbolic, representing the hidden pressures, unspoken truths, and troubling secrets of an industry that often projects joy while concealing pain. The unanswered questions surrounding his final days continued to spark debate. Was Twitch's death truly what it seemed? Or was it part of a much larger and more complex story still unfolding behind closed doors?
Tuesday, December 12. Twitch packed a small bag with only a change of clothes and his handgun, slipped out of his house without telling Allison, turned his phone to airplane mode so he couldn't be tracked, and took an Uber to the Oak Tree Inn, a dreary two-story motel in a hacienda-style building on heavily trafficked Ventura Boulevard, just a mile from his house, and paid $107 to reserve a room for a single night. Twitch made his way down to room 249 and let himself in. Allison reported to police that Twitch was missing shortly after he had left the house, noting with particular worry that she couldn't reach him by phone, and he had not taken his car with him when he left, two things that she said were very much out of character for him.
Because there were no details about Twitch's death, people just rushed to fill that void. This was at the time when Ellen had built this edifice as the nicest person on television. She would have YouTube stars, and all of a sudden that edifice was crumbling.
The news about Ellen created a wave of online criticism at the time.
Touching message from the widow of the dancer and TV personality and inspiration to a lot of us, known as Twitch. In her first social media post since Stephen Boss's death last week, Allison Holker shared this on Instagram, a selfie of the smiling couple. Holker left a short but powerful message. My one and only, oh, how my heart aches. We miss you so much. Twitch was last seen in this Instagram video he shared on December 11th, doing what he and she were known best for, dancing. Just 2 days later, he was found dead in a motel room in Los Angeles. The death was ruled a suicide. Twitch was 40 years old. Since then, there has been an outpouring of support for Holker.
Only months before Twitch's passing, the Ellen DeGeneres Show came to a close. Its legacy overshadowed by allegations of workplace abuse directed at Ellen herself. For many viewers, it was jarring. After all, Ellen had spent years building her public image around kindness, only for that facade to crumble when stories of mistreatment surfaced. When she finally addressed the controversy, Ellen issued an on-air apology, but instead of facing the moment alone, she brought Twitch into the spotlight, almost as if his presence could soften the blow and restore her credibility. The move was transparent and uncomfortable to watch. Twitch's demeanor that day spoke volumes. It was clear he wasn't at ease being used as a shield for Elon's reputation.
I learned that things happened here that never should have happened. I take that very seriously, and I want to say I am so sorry to the people who were affected. I know that I'm in a position of privilege and power, and I realize that with that comes responsibility, and I take responsibility for what happens at my show. This is the Ellen DeGeneres Show. I am Ellen DeGeneres. My name is there. My name is there. My name is on underwear. We have had a lot of conversations over the last few weeks about the show, our workplace, and what we want for the future. We have made the necessary changes.
Rumors have long tied Ellen DeGeneres to Sean Diddy Combs, notorious parties events whispered about in Hollywood circles but rarely discussed openly. These gatherings, according to speculation, weren't just casual industry mixers, but carefully orchestrated affairs where some of the most powerful and influential figures in entertainment, politics, and business allegedly converged. They were said to be places where reputations were both made and destroyed, where alliances were forged in secrecy, and where the line between luxury and depravity blurred. Through her close professional relationship with Twitch, Ellen's alleged involvement in these circles has raised uncomfortable questions. Twitch, known for his loyalty and professionalism, may have found himself in spaces he never intended to be. Insiders suggest that his proximity to Ellen could have given him access to moments, conversations, or behaviors that were never meant to reach the outside world. For someone like Twitch, who had built his career on positivity and authenticity, the weight of witnessing such darkness might have been unbearable. Some accounts claim that he attempted to distance himself, stepping back quietly and focusing on his family. But others whisper a far more troubling possibility that his silence wasn't voluntary. The idea that he may have been pressured into keeping quiet, or worse, prevented from sharing what he knew, has fueled a wave of speculation, online, in conspiracy forums and social media threads. People connect dots between Twitch's sudden death and the broader pattern of individuals tied to Diddy's world who later faced tragedy or disappeared from public life. Ellen's own abrupt departure from the United States only deepens these suspicions. She didn't stage a farewell tour, didn't grant a final round of talk show interviews, and didn't provide a clear explanation to her fans. Instead, she slipped away quietly, relocating overseas and changing her appearance, as though seeking to reinvent herself far from the spotlight that once made her a household name. To critics, the timing of this move coming so soon after Diddy began facing scrutiny and federal raids felt less like coincidence and more like strategy. Now, online discussions frequently link Elon's name with Diddy's, placing both at the center of Hollywood's murkiest secrets. Commenters point out the uncanny similarities. Both surrounded themselves with power. Both cultivated a polished public image, and both are now mentioned in conversations that allege manipulation, exploitation, and control behind the scenes. The pattern of mysterious or tragic deaths connected to these figures only amplifies the unease. For Twitch's fans, this narrative is especially haunting. How could someone so universally admired for his kindness and light end up ensnared in such a web of darkness? Ultimately, these whispers reflect a broader cultural anxiety about what happens behind the closed doors of power. The entertainment industry thrives on illusion, on stories crafted for public consumption that often hide the realities beneath. Twitch's death, Ellen's departure, and Diddy's unraveling are, too many, not isolated events but interconnected pieces of a puzzle that has yet to be fully revealed. Whether these suspicions hold truth or are simply the product of a grieving public trying to make sense of loss, they speak to a growing belief that the price of fame often comes with secrets too dangerous to tell.
Tonight about the tragic side of Stephen Twitch Boss and the detailed steps he took to hide his plans. TMZ is reporting when Twitch left his home the day before his suicide, he took an Uber to a motel about a mile away. At the motel, he switched his phone to airplane mode so no one could reach him. The motel manager says he checked in under his own name and never left his room. We also now know that Twitch left his suicide note. Details have not been made public, but TMZ reports the note alluded to challenges Twitch had faced in the past. Entertainer Tyler Perry knows firsthand what that.
Years ago, Ellen introduced Twitch on her show with warmth and gratitude, calling him someone who had changed her life and the very spirit of the series. For the public, he was the charismatic in-house DJ who kept the energy alive until the show wrapped. But behind the applause and the laughter, a much darker story was quietly unfolding. In his final letter to his wife, Allison, Twitch reportedly laid everything bare. He described what he had witnessed at those secretive parties, scenes involving some of the most powerful and unexpected names in the industry. He admitted that he had been pressured into silence, and that even those closest to Jim, including Ellen, were not the people they pretended to be. Sources claim the letter was more than a farewell, it was a warning. And it wasn't the only thing he left behind. Allegedly, there was also a voice note, recorded specifically for Ellen, where he revealed the full truth. Though never officially released, references to this recording have surfaced across forums and leaked private messages. Some insist Allison still has the copy. Others believe it vanished erased or taken soon after Twitch's death.
She sounded so sincere, didn't she?
Very sincere.
Virtually choke on her words. But the best one for me is Ellen DeGeneres, who is, by the way, a very nasty person. I've had dealings with her in Australia. Could I tell you some stories about that cow? But anyway, good riddance to her. But she was quite friendly with that P. Diddy bloke, wasn't she?
Well, this is why I say release the Diddy files.
Yeah.
Release the Diddy files. Come on, Donald Trump. We want to know whose name.
So maybe she's hightailing out of there before all that is thrown at her as well. But
Ellen once opened up about her own struggles with mental health, recalling moments so dark that she contemplated ending her life. She admitted that, at the time, she thought the only way to escape the pain was to leave the world behind, realizing she would have missed what she later called the best chapters of her life. Fast forward to 2024. And Ellen made headlines again, this time for an entirely different reason. Just after federal agents raided Diddy's Miami mansion, she quietly announced she was leaving the United States for good. The timing raised eyebrows. Fans noticed not only her sudden departure, but also her attempt at reinvention. The comedian, who had been blonde for most of her career, abruptly dyed her hair and relocated to England, hoping for a clean slate, but the synchronicity was impossible to ignore. Why would Ellen vanish from the public eye at the exact moment Diddy's empire began collapsing under trafficking allegations? And why the dramatic change in appearance, as if she were trying to become unrecognizable?
Doing, of course, the stand-up, doing the wine and shit. And then it wasn't until literally I was throwing these parties at my crib, and I would always throw parties for like musical guys, so I threw a party for Puff. Puff comes and big party, it's like 2,000. Puff is there, and it's all about him. And I'll never forget, he got mad at me a little bit because I would follow him, and I would actually follow him with a camera, because at that time Puff was the biggest guy in the world. You couldn't even get in his parties. So the way I would get in his parties, I'd show up with a camera, like, yo, Puff, you need to document this. And he turned around, what's up, Playboy? I said, yeah, let me get that, man. Ain't nobody getting this. And it wasn't back in the day with the, with the camera phone. I had the big fucking Canon that you put on your shoulder and the light, and I said, let me change the.
Ellen DeGeneres and her wife, Portia de Rossi, have reportedly left the United States behind, heading for the UK in the wake of Donald Trump's landslide re-election. Multiple outlets claim the move is permanent, with the couple putting their Montecito mansion on the market. According to The Wrap, Ellen and Portia are now living in rural England, telling friends that Trump's return to power was the driving force behind their decision, given Ellen's long history as a vocal Trump critic. Many weren't surprised by the drastic step. This isn't the first time Elon's disdain for Trump has been on display. In one infamous interview, she was asked which political figure she'd rather be trapped in an elevator with Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions. Her sharp-witted response, "Does one of us have to come out alive?" Since relocating overseas, Ellen has also debuted a striking new look, swapping her signature blonde hair for a different shade. Sources told TMZ that she and Portia had already purchased their home in southwest England before the election, but the timing of their departure lined up closely with Trump's victory, making the move all the more scrutinized. But Ellen isn't the only name drawing attention. Twitch's death isn't the first tragedy tied to Diddy's orbit. Actor Jamie Foxx, once a regular at Diddy's infamous parties, Allegedly, fell out of favor after Diddy discovered he had been secretly recording. Rumors claim Jamie had damaging tapes of his own. In 2023, just as federal investigators began circling Diddy, the mogul supposedly learned about those recordings. Not long after, news broke that Jamie Foxx was suffering from a sudden, mysterious, health crisis. For nearly a year, he vanished from the spotlight, fueling speculation that his disappearance was no coincidence.
It's a great victory for the jury system. You saw that the Southern District of New York prosecutors came at him with all that they had. They're not stopping, but one thing stands between all of us and a prison, and that is a jury of 12 citizens. And we had a wonderful jury. They listened to every word, and they got the situation right, or certainly right enough. They acquitted him of the sex trafficking, which he was absolutely innocent of. They acquitted him of the racketeering conspiracy that he was absolutely innocent of, and all of the components to it. The kidnapping, he was innocent of that. The arson, he was innocent of that. The obstructing justice, he was innocent of that. And that is no longer just me saying that.
Jamie Foxx has hinted that the truth about his mysterious health crisis may finally come out. In his new Netflix comedy special, the actor reportedly suggests that Diddy was behind the incident that nearly cost him his life. Foxx was hospitalized for over 20 days in 2023, recovering for months after what doctors later revealed was a brain bleed that led to a stroke. While Diddy's team has denied any connection, Foxx has remained noticeably quiet, leaving fans eager to hear his full side of the story. But the timing has raised eyebrows. Just weeks after the Netflix special aired, Foxx was attacked during a birthday dinner at a Beverly Hills restaurant. Witnesses say someone from another table threw a glass that struck him in the face, leaving the Oscar winner with stitches. Police confirmed the incident but made no arrests. To many, the assault felt less like a coincidence and more like a unmistakable message from Diddy: speak out, and there will be consequences. Foxx, however, has chosen resilience. On stage, he told audiences, "I was fighting for my life, but I'm here in front of you." His sister later revealed doctors had given the family grim news during his hospitalization, but Fox defied the odds. Even after the Beverly Hills incident, his daughter Lindsay wrote on social media, "The devil is busy, but I'm too blessed to be stressed." Meanwhile, Diddy has once again managed to sidestep the harshest legal consequences, despite tapes, eyewitnesses, and alleged evidence tying him to serious crimes. The official verdict cleared him of racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking charges. Instead, he was only found guilty of transporting women, including Cassie and Jane, for prostitution. The ruling left many baffled. One online commenter summed it up: "How are you guilty of moving them but not guilty of what they were moved for? That's like charging a getaway driver but saying the robbery never happened." Some believe the court will still make an example of Diddy, handing down the maximum sentence, much like O.J. Simpson received in Vegas after escaping conviction in Los Angeles. Critics argue that his long history of using narcotics, manipulation, and violence to control others should not go unpunished. Others caution against painting the entire hip-hop culture with the same brush, pointing out that while Diddy's alleged actions are reprehensible, they don't define the countless artists in the industry who have built their careers without ever engaging in such behavior. The verdict is finally in. Sean Diddy Combs has been convicted on 2 counts of transporting his former girlfriends across state lines for the purpose of prostitution. However, he was cleared of the most serious charges: racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking. The guilty counts are tied to 2 women, singer Cassie Ventura and another ex-partner identified only as Jane. Under U.S. law, knowingly transporting someone with the intent that they engage in prostitution or illegal sexual activity is a federal crime, carrying a maximum penalty of 10 years in prison per count, plus fines. After 3 days of deliberation, the jury delivered its decision, leaving Diddy facing up to 20 years behind bars. Reactions to the verdict have been sharply divided. Prosecutors and Cassie's team called it a victory, emphasizing that the trial finally exposed a hidden pattern of abuse. Legal experts noted that Diddy's defense team took a huge gamble by going to trial against federal prosecutors, one that partially paid off, since he was acquitted of the most damning allegations. On the other side, Diddy's legal team wasted no time framing the verdict as a decisive victory. To them, the jury's decision to acquit their client of the most serious charges, racketeering, obstruction of justice, arson, and sex trafficking, proved what they had argued all along, that the federal government had overreached, throwing a mountain of accusations at the music mogul in hopes that something would stick. Standing before cameras, his attorneys praised the 12 jurors, calling them attentive, thoughtful, and fair. They highlighted the fact that racketeering, conspiracy charges, often used as a sweeping net to tie multiple alleged crimes together, had been rejected, which, in their words, dismantled the government's most sensational claims. To Diddy camp, the acquittals represented not just a legal triumph but a moral one, evidence that their client had been unfairly targeted in a storm of media frenzy and speculation. Still, the reality is far more complicated. While Diddy's lawyers celebrated, the conviction on 2 counts of transporting women across state lines for prostitution cannot be dismissed. Under federal law, each conviction carries up to 10 years in prison, plus fines. With 2 counts on the table, Diddy faces a theoretical maximum of 20 years behind bars. The legal consequences are serious, but what remains uncertain is how the sentencing judge will interpret the case. Sentencing in high-profile trials often becomes about more than the crimes themselves. It becomes about sending a message. Speculation runs rampant. Some legal analysts believe the court will make an example out of Diddy, handing down a sentence closer to the maximum to demonstrate that no amount of money, fame, or influence places someone above the law. In their view, the cultural climate has shifted, and there is mounting pressure to hold powerful men accountable for decades of alleged abuse. A heavy sentence, they argue, would be a symbolic moment, signaling that the justice system is capable of piercing the veil of celebrity privilege. Others, however, remain deeply skeptical. They argue that Diddy's wealth, resources, and long-standing connections within the industry and political circles may soften the outcome. In this interpretation, the convictions, while technically serious, may be treated as lesser crimes compared to the ones he was acquitted of. Some predict that rather than 2 decades in prison, Diddy could walk away with a dramatically reduced sentence, perhaps just a few years behind bars, or even a deal that includes probation and community service. Online conversations mirror this split. On one hand are those demanding accountability, who see anything less than a substantial prison term as a failure of justice. On the other are voices already convinced that Diddy will once again slip through the cracks, shielded by his power. For now, Diddy remains in custody, with bail denied as he awaits his October sentencing. The denial of bail itself speaks volumes. It suggests the court sees him as either a flight risk or someone too deeply entangled in ongoing investigations to be granted freedom. Yet until the gavel falls and the sentence is read aloud, one fact remains indisputable: Diddy's future hangs precariously in the balance. Whether he emerges as yet another celebrity who managed to outmaneuver the system, or as a cautionary tale of power finally met with accountability, will depend on the decision of a single judge.